I figured a good place to start, since we both went to University of Richmond, would be, how do you look back on your time that you spent at Richmond? Are there any sort of standout periods? It could have to be with golf. It could be a personal thing that you were going through, or just any period that stands out when you think about Richmond.
The My experience at the University of Richmond is one that I would probably do exactly the same. I loved Richmond.
Mm.
I think it was a perfect fit for me because I really wanted to play Division 1 golf, and but I wanted to make sure I got my education. And I think Richmond, I mean, you going there, you know that they don't let you get away with anything,
Yeah.
and they make sure that they're putting that education in your, in your mind, in your head, and you're coming out with good effort put into school. And that's what I really enjoyed, because I felt like I could spend a lot of time at the golf course, and no matter how much time I spent, I was getting my education, which is what I really enjoyed. I also really liked that aspect that, when I was at the University of Richmond, I was already preparing to be a professional. I already knew what I wanted to do. And it was small enough that if I missed the parties, if I wasn't in the dining room all the time, you still, because it was such a small school, you could still, get to know a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it was okay if you sat at a stranger's table and just started chatting with them, because, soon enough you'd have a class with them. So that I really like that. And then I think when I also started school, I was on a full golf scholarship, and I just felt like all my competitors were, there's a lot of girls in women's golf that don't go to college. They turn pro right away and
Hmm.
they're getting that experience. And I just felt like my freshman and sophomore year that I was like, I just want to go play professionally. But the University of Richmond has so many resources to offer. And my junior year, I started my marketing degree, and that's when it all clicked. And I was like, I can
Yeah.
use the school's resources for my career. And that's when I started going to professors, office hours, and I just talk to them about what I wanted to do. And there's been a ton of University of Richmond alumni that have helped me along the way. So it was a perfect path for what I wanted to do.
So I'm interested in this because I also felt like I was preparing myself to play professional sports, which was
Mhm.
baseball. My goal was to be drafted after my junior year, or just any time really
Mhm.
after school, and ended up not doing that. One, because I wasn't good enough, and two, because I had a couple elbow surgeries, which
Mhm.
after that I
Oh my god.
I was a serviceable college pitcher, but I was not at the pro level like yourself for your sport. How did you navigate doing school and all the things that come with college, but also preparing to be a professional golfer after the fact?
Well, I definitely would say that I wasn't the best at it. On top of that,
Me too. Me
yeah,
too.
because I wanted to spend as much time as I could on the golf course, and at the same time, I wanted to make sure I had money saved up. So when I left, if I needed a little room to find my sponsors, I hadn't. So I actually even worked. There was a time where I like worked 3 jobs while going to school and playing golf. So I was like,
Really?
yeah, that was my junior year and the beginning of my senior year, and it was a tough time. But
What what were these jobs?
so I was a waitress at Independence Golf Club. That's where our team would practice, and so
Okay.
I would always ask my coach for like the early tea times because I had to start waitressing at like 3 o'clock. And I would study like in the kitchen, and I just felt like that motivated me to work even
Mhm.
harder. I was also at Independence. I also worked weddings. So
Okay.
while people were partying on Saturdays, I was partying, serving food at weddings, which was really fun as well. Sometimes I could maybe catch a gathering by the time I got out
Mhm.
at like 1 in the morning, but usually I didn't make it. Everybody was done partying at that time.
Yeah, and all the bars. I'm in New
It
York.
closed
All
at
the
2.
all the bars in Richmond close. Yeah, 1:30 is last call. New York places are open here till between 4 and 6 in the morning. But yeah, I always forget when I go back to Richmond that things are starting to wrap up around 1:15, 1:30, and everyone's done partying.
Yeah, yeah, but it was good. It definitely kept me out of trouble. Kept me focused. And my other job was that I worked as a student worker in the production in this athletic, in the whole
Hmm.
production, editing, filming, and so I would film men's basketball games, women's basketball games. I did a couple of baseball events, and I did some lacrosse, even though I did not know anything about lacrosse. I just took as many good
Yeah.
pictures as I could.
I admire your discipline. I don't think I would have had, well, I didn't have the same discipline to work and think about saving up money for pro sports after school, especially with all the partying I did. And my grades definitely suffered my last couple years in school when I was focusing more on baseball. But yeah, I wasn't really thinking about the financial lifestyle of a minor league professional baseball player after school, which is shit. It's like it's a really bad pay. I guess if I was good enough to get drafted, I would have been smacked in the face with having zero savings account. So I admire that you were thinking about that ahead of time.
Well, what I did was that in the summers, between every college year, I tried to live like I tried to be like, okay, I'm just gonna pretend like I'm a professional golfer right now, and I was gonna try to live exactly the same exact lifestyles, just because I wanted to know, like, because I had heard, you either, you play golf because you like golf, but you also have to like the lifestyle, right? And I'm sure
Hmm.
it's the same way with baseball, especially baseball. You guys are everywhere all the time, such a long season for you guys as well. So
Yeah.
I tried to just mimic that. And so I was waitressing, and I remember that I would waitress and try to pay my entry fees. And it was actually really funny. One tournament, I was very low on money, and I remember they said they were going to give free lunch. And I was so excited because I would eat
Hmm.
the free lunch and then take one to go and make it my dinner. And
Yeah.
that was actually the Virginia Stroke Play Championship, which is the event that I won when I was the lowest. Well, I barely had anything in my bank account. So it's kind of funny how those things work out.
Yeah.
Really, really makes you
It
think.
is it a common thing for you to visualize what the future will be and try to adjust your life to that, like you were doing, visualizing being a professional golfer before you were actually a professional golfer? Because in baseball that's not common.
Mhm.
Guys think about the upper echelon of being a major league baseball player, getting those checks, driving the cars, like playing in front of 50,000 people. And I think some some guys do are aware of the realities of minor league playing beforehand if they know someone or maybe their dad was a minor league baseball player. But for the most part, most college baseball guys are always focused on the the glorious aspect of the upper echelon of sports and not really preparing themselves for, okay, I'm gonna make $800 a month after rent. I might do this for 8 years. Is this the lifestyle that I want to lead? And can I picture myself doing that until I'm like, maybe 29, 30 and break into it? Is that something that you commonly do in your life where you'll take the future? Because I think that's pretty uncommon where you take the future and then you kind of adopt that routine before you actually get into it.
Yeah, this is something that I started doing because I caught myself in college thinking, okay, when I'm, a professional golfer, I'll be eating healthier. I'll be fit. When I'm
Hmm.
a professional golfer, and kids, are asking for my autograph, like that's when I'll be nicer. Like that's
Hmm.
when I'll be like, you know,
Yeah.
talking to everybody and saying hello. And then it hit me that I was like, okay, if I want to be the number one golfer in the world, and I started questioning myself, like, how would I act? Right? How would I treat the people around me? And I kind of started adopting that when I was in college. And you start thinking about the laws of attraction and everything. That's when I I just felt, if I want to be the number one golfer in the world, then I better start acting like one. Because when I get there, then I wouldn't have to change. Like I was thinking, what am I trying to get fit when I'm a professional golfer? It doesn't happen in one day, So that's when I really started just implementing everything when I was in college.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like that mentality could apply to a lot of areas in life where you have to kind of reverse engineer the type of person you want to be based on how how you have to live in order to attain that status, whatever it is, whether it's a pro golfer or pro podcaster, pro chef, like whatever you're doing, to look at the people who are doing it and how they treat others, how they train, and then adapting that to your lifestyle before you actually get there. Cause it's so hard. Like, I think it's the one in a million people that can roll out of bed and play a good round without anything, or roll out of bed and throw 97 miles an hour. Like, you'll have
Mhm.
those people once in a blue moon where it's like whatever they do, they're just good. But for every single person on the planet, you have to be able to kind of put yourself in that mode before you get there.
Right. Yeah, and it's not like, don't get me wrong. Like, I see myself as Elsa Diaz, number one in the world, would
Hmm.
be still the hard worker, would still be the one
Hmm.
that you see her on the range. So that's why I think it's easy to put it into my life now, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
not Elsa Diaz just hanging out and partying. That's not who I would think I would be. So going back to your question, like how you put it into reality. At the same time, I do have to remind myself, because you tend to get a little anxious, right? Like, why am I
Hmm.
not on tour? Why am I not hanging out with the girls yet? Well, the big girls, and then you have to just say, okay, I'm here right now. This is where I am. I gotta make the best of the situation that I am in right now. So, because that's the only way to keep staying happy.
Hmm.
If you're not happy, you're not playing well. That's for sure.
Yeah. So you had the opportunity to play a little bit with your sister in college,
Yes.
and she's your manager now.
Yes.
So I'm wondering how playing with your sister and also working professionally with her has shaped the way that you play golf and are going about your pro golf career. Because I had a younger brother that also played baseball, but never played with him on the same team. He was about a
hmm
year and a half younger than me. So I'm curious how that affected your relationship, playing with your sister and now also being a professional partnership.
Having my sister at the University of Richmond, I think was one of the best experience I've ever had. I've actually often thought about this. I'm the only one in my family who's never been alone. Like, I left for
Mhm.
college and my sister came, and then ever since then I've just been with my sister, and it's just a different. It's a level of confidence that they give you that you don't really realize. But for me, I was in college, and anything that could happen to me, my sister was there. And that, I think, was the perfect setup for her to become my manager, because that year that we spent together by ourselves away from home, we really got to know each other, and we got to make friends, and we got to really, in a way, start to build what we wanted the Diaz sisters to do, how we got along with
Mhm.
people, and what we wanted our future to look like. And, there's nothing better that I just remember so well, us being in the van together and just cracking up. It's just different kind of jokes that you can have with your sister versus your
Mhm.
teammates. And like I said, then later she wasn't on the team anymore, and I just had somebody to go to all the time. And in a way, I got my college experience being by myself, but it was also like I have this like automatic friend who's always with me. And a lot of
Mhm.
times we have this thing that we're like, sister, we need to break up because we hang out with each
Yeah.
other too much. And then,
Yeah.
okay, like, don't call me until tomorrow. And then she calls me 2 minutes later and she's like, I can't break up.
Yeah.
So it only made sense for her to be my manager. I mean, she's the person who knows me the best, and I think, and I think this happens to a lot of athletes. You always wonder what the situation is going to be with your manager and your agent, right? Are they going to put stress on you? Are they
Mhm.
not? And my sister knows exactly how I work, and I can tell her like, hey, like I'm like stressed out, and she'll be like, all right, sister, don't worry about it. And she's just great. She really understands who I am, and I think as a manager, she's um, I wish everybody had a manager like she is to me. She's great.
Yeah, I think that's the one of the best qualities of a manager, whatever it is you do, whether it's sports or more creative, like music or producing, whatever, anything where you have a manager. From the people I've spoken to, like yourself, that are focusing on a craft, like that craft is their job. The most important thing a manager can do is set your life up so that you can focus as close to 100% on that craft as possible. So when you do have to do things outside of it, it's okay, you have to be here at this time, or this is what you're doing next week, or you need to do that. Like all the things that are more the managerial role, that it's as least resistance as possible for you, where you can focus on golfing, honing your technique, getting better mentally, and then all the other shit is your sister, and I'm
Yeah.
sure she makes it really smooth and seamless, and she seems very enthusiastic about what she's doing.
Yes, she's, and I think something that's really cool about my sister too is that she kind of just lets me dream real big, even though we're still making our way up. So
Hmm.
she'll call me and, okay, if you're number one in the world, like what clothing brand do you want to? We got to start checking it out,
Yeah.
and then also sometimes out of the two of us, she's definitely the more organized one, and I can just I could call her at 1 in the morning and he was like, hey, I was just starting to think, I think we need to get this done. And she'll have it done, within a couple
Hmm.
hours. And it's impressive because she has her other job
Yeah.
and she's a Wonder Woman.
Yeah. So that goes off something that I wanted to get into, which is the realities of being a professional athlete, getting paid to play your sport, and also an athlete who is not ranked in the top 10, top 100, but aspires to be,
Mhm.
because that's where most professional athletes are. They're not the Tiger Woods or the Rory McIlroys or uh, like Mike Trouts of baseball, those people that are constantly in the spotlight. Most of the men and women that are in the sport are fit in that category where it's like they're past the preparation stages of high school and college, but they're not in that upper echelon yet. So could you speak a little bit about what it means to be in that professional golfer mindset, and the realities of playing pro golf and aspiring to get to that level, the day-to-day lifestyle, the things that maybe the average golf fan that tunes in to a few majors a year may not be aware of?
Yes. So, let me see. Where do I start? Well, as a golfer who's just working her way to the top, is I think what I feel is that I have what I'm working. I have this game, right, golf, that I'm working with my dad. And we're just kind of working a way to find this. I don't know how much Sarah told you. My dad is my swing coach, and we've been working on the
Hmm.
biomechanics of the golf swing, which at the end of the day, if I can get to doing what he wants me to do, then we'll have this long term success with um, pain free golf swing, which is what my dad has always wanted me to do. Now,
Hmm.
with my junior golf, I always relied on my athleticism. There was no mechanics, there was no studying of the golf swing, there was nothing. And then in
Hmm.
college, I was away for 4 years and I was trying to balance college and golf. And now I really feel like I've been able to dive into golf. Now, like you said, it's my craft. So with my dad, you just always feel like you're going somewhere. You've got a plan, and this is what we're gonna do, and we're gonna stick to it. Um, because you have that's what you need to do without
Yeah.
going crazy. Because I think when I first turned pro, you have like this freedom, right? Like you don't have a
Hmm.
9 to 5 job, and you're always like, how do I know what I'm supposed to be doing? Like, am
Yeah.
I doing the right thing? Am I practicing enough? And I have a friend who's a music producer, and he said, Elsa, you know what to do. You just eventually have to trust that you're going in the right path. And so then, after my first year of professional golf, that first year on the road is when you are trying to test out how long you need to be on the road. I've seen that my max is about like 3 weeks, and then I have to go home.
Hmm.
I don't care if I have to go 24 hours or what it is. Um, but 3 weeks on the road, and then I need to come back, and then I keep going, and then you figure out if you like to travel with someone, if you don't like to travel with someone, who's
Hmm.
better as a caddy. And now that I'm on my second year, now it's a whole different year. And I think that you just have to trust that every year you're gaining these experiences that are going to help you get to where you're going. And the
Yeah.
way you also, it's that something that I struggled with so much in the beginning was the being unfamiliar with something. Like
Hmm.
you're in a new town, you're by yourself, and I just couldn't get comfortable with that feeling. And now that I'm on my second year, now you're like, okay, I'm comfortable with being uncomfortable all the time. Like it doesn't matter where you are, you just figure it out, and your life literally just becomes, like if you think like when you're traveling, you're like, okay, I'll just go home and do this. But now on the
Hmm.
road, now the road is your life. So your life is now applied on the road all the time. And that's what I just think that I've really seen, that slowly you just let the life kind of build you, and you just trust that it's going to make you who you want to be, and get you where you want to go. And then it's just no looking back. You just trust, and that's all you can do. You know where you're going, and you know where you can be.
So it sounds like there's not as much of a separation between your life on the road and your life playing and your lifestyle. You've thought a lot about how you want to live within the game of golf. It's not a
Right.
separate thing to you. Uh,
Yes, no. I think once it
yeah.
becomes like, because golf, I don't feel like it's my job. I mean, I
Hmm.
give it as much as I would a regular job,
Hmm.
probably a little bit more, but I do see it as a vocation. And once something becomes your craft, everything you do from the moment you wake up, and I'm going to go walk on the beach because it's good for my mental game. So I'm just going to go, or sometimes I'm going to go hang out with
Hmm.
friends because I need a balanced life to play good golf. Like everything you start
Yeah.
doing, it becomes, but that's how I've treated it. How I've really liked to see it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I selfishly want to know how do you get separation between your performance and leaving your performance on the course and then being someone who lives well with other people and still caring about how you treat other people and hang out with your friends and experiences with your family, because I was not great at that while I was still playing baseball. My performance would make me a great or a shitty person depending on how I did for maybe sometimes for the week until I pitched again on Saturday. So for you, how do you kind of compartmentalize the performance and then also allow yourself to live and have fun, whether you had the best round of your life or the worst round of your life?
I think I definitely have to give this to, my family. I think my parents were always big on, you have a good attitude no matter what. I remember one time when I was a junior golfer, I was an athlete, I just thought like I was like so cool, and I was like
Yeah.
one of those like super mega focused athletes. And I remember like one time I might have just I was upset about something, and my mom was like, "I'll take you off the golf course if you keep that up." And I was like, "Oh, well, never mind." Um, but I think my parents were always real big on having that that overall lesson about just no matter what happens on the golf course, you have to be able to kind of
Yeah.
leave it out there. And I've, and after my parents taught me that, I've looked a little bit more and I've studied a little bit more about the subconscious mind and the mind. And one of the things that they talked about in the books that I've read is just saying, if you get mad and you get upset, then you're telling your brain that's the reality, right?
Hmm.
And for
Yeah.
me, when I have a bad round or I don't get the things I wanted to get done, if I let it affect me, especially emotionally, that's going to stay in my mind for a long time,
Hmm.
right? And it just takes forever to rewire that. And it's taken me a lot to remind myself that at the end of the day, it's just a game. I could be doing something that I don't want to do, and I think in my journey with golf, it's really been the people who have helped me keep going, right?
Hmm.
It's my dad that I call him and I just tell him had a bad round, and he's like, "Oh, just go get some ice cream and we'll fix it." And
Yeah.
my sister, "It's okay, girl, like next time," and you have no idea how many times my sister texts me like, "It's all right, it's okay." And to hear that from your manager or from your coach, even when you're like, it's not, I had a rough time. It just kind of helps you. And if you, and I've seen, if I, like all the people who have hosted me, all, when you play good and the tournament director comes and pats you on the back and be like, hey girl, good round. That's kind of the reason why you end up doing it. So I'm like, why wouldn't I treat the people around me, um, the way they treat me when you're at your high, and so that's kind of what
Yeah.
I've tried to keep in mind.
Yeah, I wish I had more of that mentality when I was playing. I always thought that if I had a bad performance, somehow I owed it to the game of baseball to be sad for a certain period of time, or somehow people wouldn't think I
Was
cared
good
as
enough.
much
Yeah.
about, yeah, think I wouldn't care as much about baseball. It was kind of almost like an act in some ways where I was like, all right, like I just pitched like shit. If I'm happy, people are going to be like, what the fuck are you happy about? Like, what do you have to smile about? So I have to be angry at myself and be mad. And then I actually was angry and mad at myself. And it was kind of like this cycle of my mood being dictated by my performance, where now looking back on it, I realize how bullshit that mentality was, and how the guys that I've played with that go on to play pro ball, and some of the guys that I've been lucky enough to know that have gone on and played Major League Baseball are all usually like the guys who can be happy, have fun, go hang out with their friends, even if they just, shit the bed in a game. Like you wouldn't be able to tell. They kind of walk off the field and they're like, oh, whatever. Like I know I'm good. I'll be fine the next time. So
Yeah.
it sounds like you definitely have that mindset.
It's, I would say that it definitely has taken me a while. Like I think from college golf, and I think maybe a couple months ago, I like it kind of, I realized it, that like how quickly you just turn it around. You finish the 18th hole and you're mad. And then by the time you sign your scorecard, it's already, it's another day. But I just hate, I didn't, hate is a strong word, but I didn't like seeing players that would, when they play good, they were all like joking around and having a good
Yeah.
time, only when they played well.
Yeah.
That's not fun. That's not, I didn't think that was cool. So I just wanted to be the player that even when I play bad, when I play good, I'm exactly the same person. Because if you're that happy person only when you play well, nobody's gonna celebrate with you. Nobody's gonna be happy with you.
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
So it's been little lessons that I think I've been learning. But sometimes you really do have those bad days, and you just need to let it out for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's something that I started to embrace towards the end of my baseball career, and also through podcasting, is that it takes a lot more discipline to stay lighthearted and happy despite what just happened on a podcast or a baseball performance, whatever it is. Like it takes more discipline to be calm and be willing to joke when things are going good and bad, rather than just when things are going good, because anyone can act mad when things are not going well, and anyone can be happy when things are.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So
It's part of the whole thing.
yeah. So I was reading that you once had or this might have been more than once, but you had a conversation with Rory McIlroy
Oh yeah,
after a after a poor performance on his part at Augusta
oh
on
yeah.
a Sunday, and you asked him about what happened on Sunday, and he said, "quote I was trying to be somebody I wasn't," end quote. And so I was wondering for you, is there a time where you tried to play like somebody you weren't? And if so, what is your feeling, or what is your outlook on that round, or that period where you were playing outside yourself, if you ever felt like that?
Yes, and I think I mentioned it a little bit earlier that when I was a junior golfer, I had the idea of being an athlete and a really good golfer as the mega focused, the mega serious, don't talk to anybody right before your round. But I just didn't know any better, right? Like I just thought that that's what it took, and it took a lot of discipline and hard work, and just kind of beat your body until it can't go anymore, and then you'll play well. And I was a decent junior golfer, but my I think as I started getting closer to college, I realized that I was like, this doesn't match my personality. Like I
Mhm.
was like one person off the golf course and another person on the golf course. And I didn't like that. And so in college golf, I told myself, okay, I'm going to try to be myself on the golf course, like my personality. I want to have fun because I like having fun outside of the golf course. I want to, I like to smile. I like to laugh. So I was like, I need to have them become one, because if not, I'm going to hate this. Right. If
Yeah.
I'm making myself be serious in golf, it wasn't going to work out. And it's a long journey, and I hope to play golf for as long as I can. So I wanted to make sure that at the end of the day, I was having a lot of fun inside of golf. And it took a long time. I definitely
Mhm.
think that it was like, I would say, my all 4 years of college until I finally felt like, people would tell me, "Oh, I enjoy watching you play," because I want to play, on the big, with the big girls and on the LPGA. But I want people to enjoy watching me play. I want people to get the same joy that I have, you know,
Yeah.
playing golf. And so that's what. And when and he told me that, I was 17 when I met Rory, and when he told me that, it was like, okay, it like reaffirmed that I was kind of headed towards the right way. And I just, when I'm playing golf now, I feel like I'm in my element, because I feel like my personality matches my golf game, and I'm just headed towards greatness.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I also, as a fan, people enjoy personalities. People like seeing emotions that they feel reflected in other people. That's exciting when someone, pumps their fist, or, maybe lets like a f bomb fly after a crappy drive or whatever. Like, and there's a way to show emotions without being emotional. And I always respect the men and women who can play like that in sports, to have the confidence to be like, this is who I am. These are the emotions that I'm feeling. While I'm not going to be controlled by them while I'm playing, I'm still going to show who I am. And people follow you both in person and on social media because of that. And I'm sure you've seen that, where sometimes like the fans that will, the players that get a lot of fans following them on a course, a lot of times it might just be like a big personality or someone that everyone likes, despite the fact that maybe he or she is not having the best round, or they might not even be in the top contention. It's like they want to see that person play, and they're fans of the way that that person plays.
Yeah, yeah, because at the end of the day, I mean, people are coming to watch us have fun and play good golf.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any sense to me. I actually feel like I'm more myself now on the golf course than I am when I'm not playing golf. So
Okay.
yeah,
That makes
so
sense.
it's been a good transition.
So I got a tip from your sister Sarah to ask you about dating on the road, and dating as a pro golfer. Is that something that you feel comfortable going into?
Yeah, let's do it. The love
Okay.
life, the lovely love life.
Yeah, because I'm in somewhat of a long distance situation myself right now, so
Wow.
I'm also interested for selfish reasons as well. But how
Oh.
have you navigated the dating dynamic being on the road as a pro golfer, for which you said sometimes weeks, maybe months at a time?
Yes. So I think I actually need to give it to Sarah, because when I came out of college, I didn't really start dating seriously until I was in college. Because I was, focused on playing Division 1 golf. Well, actually, I'll let you know. I had a boyfriend in 5th grade, and I came home,
Ooh,
and I was like,
big shot.
I told my family, I was like, I have a boyfriend, and my dad was like, no, you don't. So
Yeah.
I broke up with him, and then I didn't really date. I mean, I talked to guys in high school or whatever, but I didn't really date until college. But even in college, I just had it all wrong. I always felt like golf and my life were two separate things, because I would
Hmm.
see it like dating felt like more normal life, right? Like after work, after 5 o'clock, after work, you go have dates and you need to hang out with friends so you get to know people. And I just felt like in golf, it was just very much like, I'm on the road for a while. I need to go, this guy, we're talking, we're not going out. I'm not very sure what's going on. And it just like, my mind just felt split. Like I was like, I just feel like I'm living these two worlds. Elsa the
Hmm.
golfer and Elsa maybe talking to this one guy. And my sister was like, sister, you will find somebody doing what you love, right? Like she's like, don't worry about it. You're gonna find somebody with what you do. And after she told me that, I was like, yes. And I've just been thriving off of that. Like it's just I now just play golf, and I just the world is good to you, and sometimes throws you a little curveball, and you meet somebody, and it's actually very nice, because if they don't want to deal with your golf schedule, then easy, it's not the one. That's as easy,
Yeah.
as easy as it can be. And I think that golf in a good way puts a lot of pressure in the relationship and communications, because if you're gone and you don't hear from them, you're not communicating well, then also that's not the person who I'm going to end up
Hmm.
being with. So, and we've, my sister travels a lot too, and we've just talked about, if the effort's there from both sides. I've always felt like it's my career that makes it tough. So, I always try, if I really like the person, then great, and I'll give the effort, and if their efforts there, then it's you work it out. But it's definitely tough, and I think I like to have like the important conversations pretty early on, because it's like, hey, are we a thing or not? Because I'm about to leave. How am I going to know, if
Yeah, it's like, what are we doing here?
if somebody asks me out on the road, can I say yes or can I say no? Or sometimes, if I'm going to be on the road and I have a weekend off, I'll fly back for you, or maybe
Mhm.
you can fly over here. But if we're not nothing, then I'm not going to do that.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
then,
like you need a clear you need clear communication and signals from someone of what they want, especially being in a long distance relationship.
yeah, yeah. But I've really enjoyed it. I've come across some wonderful guys, and I've really I just get so inspired about with like when you get to spend time with someone and get to talk to somebody, you learn different things about them, and I'm always like, maybe I can apply this to my life,
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really fun about dating, and it's the Diaz sisters. We always talk about like, okay, if you love and you're like fall in love with this guy, just go ahead. And if he breaks your heart, we'll pick up the pieces. Like, don't worry, girl.
Yeah.
Like, you just go hard, have fun. And it's so it's been a lot of fun. And like I said, I've dated on the road. I've dated not on the road. Dated athletes, non-athletes. That we're trying to see what works the best, because it's a lot for sure, but it's a lot of fun.
So what's your best long distance dating advice or advice for communication now that you've been through it a little bit for someone who may be in a long distance thing, whatever it is, their job's pulling them away, or maybe they're not seeing their girlfriend or boyfriend as much. What are your best tips for keeping that spark alive?
Ooh, that's pretty good. Okay, so I will let you know that I was so used to like the texting back and forth all the time, communication
Hmm.
24/7. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, but not too long ago, I got to see the other side of it, where it wasn't communication all the time. And that was really cool, because it just felt like I could have my own life. And if he called me or texted me, it was like, woo, it was like super cool. And it was a great
Yeah.
surprise. And he was kind of doing his own thing, and I was doing my own thing. So that really got me thinking, because I think, especially as millennials, we're just so used to being on our phones all the time. And this
Hmm.
really, having this like, getting to know this guy in this way, really like got me thinking that it was just nice to not have to have my phone all the time. And it almost seems like we made greater efforts to see each other, because we weren't texting back and forth all the time. So My advice would be, oh god, that's a really good one. I just
You
think
made
they
me
should.
think of some things too.
Well, like what? Tell me.
So, all right, I'm not going to let you get out of giving your advice, but I'll give some of my insight that I've learned through trial and error is to always to be really aware of the communication styles of each person, because I tend to be more on the lower frequency side of the spectrum, where I'll fire off maybe a text or two a day, and that's just me. Like I sometimes the other person might think that I'm being cold or not care about them, when really I just wanted to save it for a FaceTime or tell them in person. Like it wasn't me not wanting to tell them something important that happened in my life. It was more I wanted to tell you this in person. I feel like if I texted it, it would kind of like take the steam out of me saying
Yes.
it to you. Like I wanted the first time that I said this to you for you to see my face and things like that. So now I'm more aware of, okay, not everyone has my communication style. Some people, if they don't know what's going through my mind, may assume that I'm, trying to play games or whatever,
Yeah.
when really I'm communicating how I feel comfortable communicating, and I'm willing to adapt that within reason. Some communication styles, if it's too different, then maybe it may not be the right person. But being aware of how the person that you're talking to or in a relationship with communicates and how they may perceive your communication style has been something that I have learned through many mistakes of not
Yeah.
thinking about that.
Okay, wait. So, but tell me about this. What happens? Have you ever met somebody who their communication style is different, kind of like me with this guy?
Hmm.
Or, I remember I had an ex that he when we first started talking, he would like text me all the time.
Mm.
Like, and I was like, ooh, I like really like this, and then I like kind of
Mhm.
ended up switching my communication because that's how he
Mhm.
was. And I really enjoyed it because he was like super funny and we had a great time, but then like this other guy that like the communication kind of slow, like was different. I was like, okay, this is cool. I like this. This is interesting. But I'm not very sure if maybe I would want to talk a little bit more or not. So, but I think that if it was a person like you, I just think it should always kind of be pretty simple, right? Like it should just
Mhm.
kind of work out. I mean, there's been plenty of times where I'm kind of getting to know a guy and I was like, hey, listen, like, I'm sorry, I'm about to go on the road for 3 weeks. I'll text you when I get back, and I do make it a
Mhm.
point. I'm not going to
Yeah.
ghost them, I'm just right now, I just want to go on the road and just kind of be present over there and not be on my phone. But I am, and if you want to talk a little bit more, then you can be like, hey, I really like if we talk a little bit more. But I
Yeah.
just always think that if, especially if you're going to do a long distance thing, it should just kind of be, I think it should just always kind of be simple. Or my sister and I have talked about, you kind of need to be with somebody who your communication styles are kind of similar,
Mhm.
in
Or
a
be willing
way.
to adapt a little bit. So if
Right.
one person's on the high frequency side of the spectrum and one person's on the lower frequency side of the spectrum, to think about how can you both be more at the center.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's too far away, maybe it's not the right situation. But I think I have had successful periods of communication with people who are not my style of communication. Like for
Okay.
example, right now, I'm not a huge texter, but to compensate for that, I will fire off voice notes when I don't
Okay.
feel like texting, because podcasting, like I just much prefer talking or FaceTime. And I feel like it just gets, sometimes I don't send a text because I think it'll be taken the wrong way, because that person's not seeing me joking around or my inflection.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's nothing in a text to indicate how I want that to be received. So there have been times where I thought I was being clear in a text and I wasn't. And she's like, "What the fuck you talking?" And I'm just like, um, but so I'll send
So what, you like
the
FaceTime? You like FaceTiming her?
I'll send like a voice note. Like I'll record an audio note of what I
Okay.
wanted to say to her if I
Mm-hmm.
don't feel like texting. Like the girl I'm talking to now, we kind of I kind of started this thing as a joke to send her a Monday motivational voice note. And so now every Monday I'll just like think of something that's like half joking but half serious and
Oh, that's so
be
cool.
like, "Oh, I hope you have a great day. Like this is your motivational Monday."
Yeah,
Cuz
where
I
do
just
I
don't feel like
subscribe to these motivational Monday?
yeah, maybe maybe I should start a subscription and then she'll be like, "Wait, you've been sending this to 1,000 other people too? You mean it wasn't just for me?" I'll be like, "Sorry, babe. Gotta make the money.
Gotta
Gotta
run the
pay the bills."
business.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something that I realize that I prefer a certain level of texting, but I can also communicate in other ways to let people know that I care. Like the voice notes. I love the voice note. I can press record on a text and talk for a minute and not think about it and it comes out how I want it to come out rather than kind of like me overthinking a text, which
Hmm.
happens a lot, kind of gets rid of that disconnect for me.
Yeah. Well, actually, it made me think. My sister and I actually had to have this talk because my sister, we have WhatsApp, Snapchat, texting, email sister, and then I was like, all right, we gotta divide what, like, if you got your nails done, you can tell me right away. If it's golf stuff, if it's important golf stuff, like, hey, you have an interview or something and I'm practicing, I'm gonna like not be able to focus on my practice anymore. So
Hmm.
we had to set up like a little system. But same thing, like we had to meet in the middle of the way. My sister, she likes to like she wants me to let her know all the like where I am all the time, especially because she's recording stats and all that for me. And I tend to just be, she doesn't hear from me. She's like, "Hey, where are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm in Alaska."
Yeah.
Like, and she's like, "What?" So she's definitely been like, "Okay, we have to kind of like meet in the middle." And I'm like, "Hey, don't do this and this when I'm practicing or blah blah blah." So now we have this amazing Google Doc, and I literally put everything, like Elsa, even just like a fun game. And so she knows not to call me during those 4 hours, or maybe she can, or like I have practice rounds. So it's like literally my whole life in there. So she can just look instead of calling me like in the middle of a tournament. So
That's amazing.
that's something that it took like it took us like we just kept on like clashing until we finally figured it out. So I guess it's got to be the same way in relationships.
I like that a lot. Maybe you should turn Google Docs into some sort of app for dating too, instead of just the managerial relationship. Because like when you're updating a Google Doc, you don't get a notification, but you can put things in the doc when the
Hmm.
person checks the next time they go back. And
Right.
so I like that aspect of it where if you have something important to say, but maybe you don't like getting all those notifications during the day, you can just drop it in the Google Doc and be like, "Hey, Applebee's tonight," and then like the person goes in and sees it, and they respond back. They're like, "Hell yeah! Like see you in an hour or whatever." And I don't know,
Yeah,
maybe
that
some
would work.
system, some
Yeah,
dating Google Doc system.
it's something. I have a couple friends that travel obviously as much as we do, like on the staff side of the PGA, and we talk about like, if a guy's kind of like trying to take you out, but they're being kind of slow on setting something up, and you're like, hey, we need to go out on Friday at 6 p.m. because I'm about to leave for 3 weeks, like, or like,
Mhm.
but you don't want to be so like forward about it, but hey, if you don't get your chance now, you're never gonna get it because I'm gonna be gone. So it's really funny just because I like especially in the summer, I practice all evening till like 8 p.m. So if you're not penciled in, you're not getting you're not, the day's not gonna happen.
Yeah, yeah. I try to be as direct as possible because I have made the mistake of not planning ahead of time where if I meet someone on a dating app, I'll send a couple messages and then say, "Okay, how about we grab drinks at this date at this time?" Because
I
I'm
love
so like
that.
routine and scheduled that I'm just
Yeah,
like, "All right, I want to know that something is on the books before I spend another, hour to 2 hours texting you or
yeah,
FaceTiming you, whatever. Like, I want to
yes.
know that we're actually gonna meet up."
I find that so attractive. I love it when they're just like, now or tomorrow or whatever. I love that about guys when they do that. So keep up the good
Yeah,
work.
I will. I will. I'll I'll do my part. So something else that I wanted to get into is the mindset that you tap into on the course when you aren't playing like you want to be playing. Because at least for me, your A game in baseball, like your absolute A game is like 10 to 20% of the time. Like once out of every 5 starts, you'll have like that, like, holy fuck, like every single thing clicked. And then the other starts will be like okay to good. So for you, where does your mind go on the course when you realize you're not having your absolute A game, but you still have to salvage the day and compete and work with what you have right now?
Hmm. Um, I think it's all. I think that I've gotten to this place where I see it as like a math equation, and it's the way my dad has always wanted me to approach the golf game because we are so swing based. My dad has always wanted me to really understand the golf swing. He's never wanted me to give me. He's never wanted me. Never wanted to give me band-aid fixes, and so his vision has always been that if I'm on the golf course and I tend to lose it, I'm spinning it out to the right or I just can't get in a groove, to just, be able to step back and just start going through all my notes. And we talk muscles, right? So, your right shoulder, and I just said muscle, like your lats and your obliques
Mhm.
and where are your biceps. And so the more I play professional golf, the more I can just kind of take the fact that I'm at a professional event and just go back to 2 plus 2 equals 4. And so when you're doing math, there's no emotion, right?
Mhm.
There's no like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. You have to read the instructions and then you start doing math. And that's how I've started to really, start to really play my game. And that's always been the goal. But it took me so long, especially in college golf, because I always felt like I was like, okay, I need to play well, and I had to, I wanted to play well for my team, but then I was like, how do I detach from that and go back to like the basics? And
Yeah.
recently I've been able, if somebody was to look at my rounds, you can see that I'm doing well, and then I have a couple like tumble holes, and then I do well again. So I'm
Yeah.
able to regroup, and that's the reason why we want to play this is because when you're at the U.S. Open or you're about to win, you need to be able to just keep doing 2 plus 2 equals 4.
Yeah.
So that's I would say that, to answer your question, I would say that it's not like I just get into this like zen and then I get out of it. It's just like, okay, I'm here to do a job, and this is what I'm going to do throughout. And sometimes you get excited or you're playing well, and then you just kind of you rely on tempo or something. And I'm like, no, 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 no. The reason why I had good tempo was because I was able to do that. And that actually
Mhm.
happened. I won a tournament individually in college, and I remember the first round I shot 78, and I just remember thinking, I'm out of the tournament. And I'm like, I'm not going to play well,
Mhm.
whatever. I just played bad. I'll just go back to what me and my dad were working on. And then I shot
Mhm.
68. There was a 36-day hole. So I shot 68.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. And I remember 69 was the record at Richmond. And
Mhm.
I was so close. And I was like, okay, I think I just need like 2 more birdies to shoot the low, like shoot the record. And
Mhm.
and I just did it. There was nothing, there was no nerves or anything, because I was going like, you know, right foot, left foot, right. I just kind of kept on
Mhm.
going forward. And the nerves weren't really, I was like excited and nervous, but it was, like I said, it was just kind of like, just follow the instructions. And then the next day, of course, I was like in the lead and I was super nervous, but I remember that's what I did the day before. Just follow what me and my dad have worked. And I always have these like golf swing notes that I'm like reading, and I have my notebook and I like read them before I play. And
Yeah.
then and I just try to maintain.
So you and your dad have worked through these non-emotional internal physical cues that you can come back to consistently when things are feeling out of whack. It's less of a like you always want to be right foot in front of the other, like you said, one foot in front of the other, not thinking too far ahead, but it's less of a emotional and mindset adjustment and more of a okay, like a cold calculated thing. I'm not doing this enough or I'm not doing that
Right.
enough.
Yes. So it's and it's like the way I see it is if, you're about to hit a shot over the water 200 yards and you're like nervous about the water, you keep thinking about it. And then you're like, wait, I have a job to do. And it's like, okay, at the top, like I have to set up my shoulder this way. I have to put my head in this position. I have to get behind the front foot, all that kind of stuff. Then all the nerves go away because your mind
Hmm.
is just focused on what it needs to do. Now, that's not really like, now that's very different from how a lot of players approach golf, but this is how I've approached golf with my dad, and it's
Hmm.
allowed me to have some really great rounds and play some good golf. Sometimes it gets me in trouble as well, right? But um,
I
it's
like that a lot though, because it's separated from the outcome and it's more focused on the process of having a good round. And I wish more coaches were like that in baseball, had the mentality of your dad, because there's this thing, I'm sure it's in all sports, but it's like if you're doing bad, you don't want it enough. Or like you like what am I doing wrong? It's like you don't want it. Like you gotta want it more. And I'm just like, that doesn't help me. Like I don't know. Like I want to do well,
yeah, I
obviously,
know
or
what you
I
mean, right?
wouldn't be here. It's not like a most like 99% of the time it's not a desire emotional fix. It's more like, oh, okay, you're landing with your front foot too curved in, or you're not getting your hips through, or some sort of cue for your shoulder. For baseball, it's like one small mechanical thing can change your entire
Right,
performance around. Not like you just got to go out there and like be a bulldog and want it, and like
right.
that's all good and stuff and motivational, but it's you can want it a lot and still play like shit.
Yes, yes, and and I'm sure it's the same way with you guys. Like, it's not, you can't go hard all the time. There's a perfect balance, right? And
Hmm.
and I would say definitely in my first year, I was like, calm the nerves, like let me think. You just gotta shut it off a little bit and just kind of really focus. But it's funny, the more you focus, the more everything else goes away.
Hmm.
Don't get me wrong. There's been plenty of rounds where I finish and I'm like, I focused on the right elbow too much, or
Yeah.
or sometimes on the 18th hole, you finish with a birdie and you're like, of course, on the last hole, I was finally able to just wrap it all together. But that's kind of what we're working on, and I think that is what I'm, gonna take to the top, and hopefully be one of the
Yeah.
best.
It sounds like a great carryover for life in general, or even other careers. In podcasting, sometimes I get too caught up in the numbers, or how long people are listening to episodes, or what the geographical locations are. I'm like, oh, I want more people like here to listen to it, instead of focusing on the process of podcasting and letting the podcast perform, like letting the results play out because of the process, and not
Hmm.
trying to, not thinking. I think it's good to have analytics on what you're doing, but while you're podcasting, and same thing with like while you're playing, I'm sure it might go against you sometimes to be thinking too much about the analytical outcome, and not enough about the physical process of just, what do I have to do now to
Hmm.
have a good shot,
Right.
just one single shot.
Which I guess goes, I guess that tunes into what people say, like you got to be in the moment and all that. But man, when you're
Mhm.
about to win the U.S. Open, it's real hard to be in the moment. You know what I mean? Like, give me something to work
Yeah.
with.
Yeah. So do you do any practices outside of golf that help you stay in the moment, like journaling or meditation or anything like that?
Yes, I do. Well, I don't know. I would say that I don't, but I do. I have an aunt who's she lives in San Diego, and she's CEO of a health group organization, and she's always advised us to write what you're grateful for, like 10 things every day.
Mhm.
And sometimes, I'm grateful for golf, grateful for the opportunities the University of Richmond gave me. So I
Yeah.
try to do that. I don't do it in a disciplined way because I feel like it should just kind of come. And
Mhm.
so I do that once in a while when I can. And I started doing it discipline, and then once I kind of got the hang of it, um, I try to just kind of do it in my everyday life. Like instead of
Yeah.
actually having to write it, I was like, why can't I just feel this way all the time? And then
Yeah.
I also try to, when I'm here in Jacksonville, Florida, I try to walk on the beach and I will listen to anything from, you know, I wouldn't say motivational speakers, but sometimes on SoundCloud they'll put like a bunch of little quotes together from different
Mhm.
speeches. So, and I'll
Yeah.
put it in there. I love listening to that because it just reminds you. And it's not about golf and it's not about sports. It's just kind of like overall about life. And I love listening to more of those things that I can apply to golf the way I want to. Um, or like things like Hidden Brain, that
Mhm.
podcast. And I also like to listen to podcasts that talk about creativity because in artists, they call it the flow when they're writing music or when they're painting something. And I see golf more as my craft than my sport, so I like to apply those things to here, and then I try to read as much as I can.
That's a good combination, reading,
So I said no,
nature,
but I do a lot.
gratefulness. Yeah, yeah, I don't do anything, but I do these 3 things all the time. No, but that's, uh that's great. I was just listening to a podcast with this guy, Andrew Huberman, who's a neuroscientist. I don't know if you've ever heard a podcast with him, but he was talking about the scientific research behind stillness and gratefulness
Mm,
combined, that they have done studies with people who are purposefully bringing to mind things that they're grateful about while also being still. So it's kind of a
ooh,
meditation, goes hand in hand, and it activates similar pathways in the brain as MDMA and ecstasy. So you're getting these hits of neurochemical happiness, and you're
ooh.
getting it, like you're literally getting a boost from feeling grateful. And
Yeah,
so for me, I tend to think about things like I'm so routine, for better or worse. I try to remember that I'm not my routine, and I gotta break out of it sometimes and be spontaneous. But when I look at things like meditation or gratefulness, like I try to be like, okay, what is the return on gratefulness? Like, okay, like, am I
what is
just
the
doing
point
this?
of this?
Yeah, is this just like woo woo bullshit, or am I actually like, what is writing down 3 things in a journal every morning? Shout out to the 5 minute journal. It's a great journal if you're ever looking for something to write down, gratefulness or your mindset for the day. But I'll write it down. I was wondering, what is the point of this? Like, it's only 5 minutes a day, but am I actually getting anything out of this? And then I listened to Andrew Huberman talk about it, and it made me feel better, because selfishly I wanted to be like, I want to
You
get
want
shit out of this
something.
too. Yeah, like
Yeah,
I'm grateful for the people in my life, but also I'm happy that being grateful makes me happy too.
yeah.
And like I think I always felt that, but seeing evidence of that reinforced my willingness to do that, and then kind of reinforced that being a part of my routine. So I think it's great that it's a part of yours
I
as
love it.
well.
You know, this might help you too. My father, he gave me a book to read in college. It was called "Feel Free to Prosper," and I was like, "Dad, don't you think I have enough stuff to read?" No, just kidding. It was like University of
Yeah.
Richmond giving us so many pages to read out of textbooks. But this book, the best thing that I got out of this book was really cool. That she said, if we're talking about like the laws of attraction and everything, she said, "How do you feel?" How would you feel if you already had whatever you wanted, right? So, like, you would be, I don't know, what would be like your goal for listeners?
My goal for listeners, having 1 million people an episode would be really cool.
Okay, so what this lady was saying was saying, how would you feel if you had 100 million? Like, she was like, well, sorry, let me back up. She said, things that we already have for, we're thankful for, and things that we don't have, we just want, right? We
Mhm.
can become needy. You're unhappy about it because you don't have it. And so, her whole idea about feel free to prosper is to feel like you already had 100 million listeners. So she's like, just imagine, like, how would you feel right now? And so I'm like, okay, feeling like I'm, number one in the world. I was like, oh, that feels pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
that's awesome. And so her whole idea was, with the laws of attraction and everything, is that you just got to already feel it, because emotions is what technically, your feelings is the strongest energy that we have. So, that was her whole idea. And I remember, like, in college, I was just like, okay, how did I feel if I was already a professional golfer? And I'm like, yeah, I feel good. And I was like, okay, I just feel
Mhm.
good. I'm just going to keep feeling that until it becomes true. So that was her explanation for why you write down your things that you're thankful for. And she said, write down whatever, 8, that you are, 4, that I'm thankful for my family and
Mhm.
grateful for my family. And then 2, that are not really real, but how would you feel, right? So I was like, okay, I'm thankful for being number one in the world. I was like, oh, I feel awesome. I'm just on this vibe now.
I like
So,
that. Feel
yeah,
feel free to prosper. I'll
yeah,
check it out.
it's a great book. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I also just finished a book called The Heart's Code, and that's one goes in kind of like with
The
what you,
Heart's Code.
yeah, what your friend, what the book, I said your friend, what your book is about, and it talks about like the biology of it all, which is really cool.
Okay,
So it's
dope.
really cool.
I'll
Yeah.
check that out too.
Yeah, I love this stuff. I love all that stuff that I can apply to my golf game. I like thrive for it.
So I wanted to end off with a couple non-related golf questions that are designed to be more fun, but we'll see.
Okay.
Um, if you had to give a TED talk on any topic besides your profession, which is golf, what topic would you give that TED talk on and why?
I would definitely have to do a lot more research, but I would really like to give a TED talk about living more creative lives. I
Living a more creative life.
Yeah, I read a book called The Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, and it is like my Bible. I love that book, and it's just about how I taught. And it's what she talks about is, she was like, you don't have to be an artist, you don't have to be a musician. She was just like, I'm just asking you to add a little bit more spunk to your life. And
Hmm.
everything she puts in that book, I love it. I really enjoyed it. And I would love to just study a little bit more about what the mind works and where our inspiration comes, and why I like to play golf and you like to play baseball, you know?
Yeah, I'm getting so many good book recommendations out of this podcast. I'm very excited to check these out. So the last question I have for you is what are the most common apps that are open on your phone?
I would say definitely Instagram,
Hmm.
SoundCloud, and Spotify, and Pandora. I'm a big music junkie.
For Instagram, and I'll give you a chance, of course, to let people know where they can follow you. Is there someone is there a golfer on social media besides yourself that you would recommend for people to follow, or just like a funny personality in the golf world, someone that's entertaining?
Oh, that's a good question.
Like even if you're
Hmm.
not a golfer, you'd still look at their tweets or their Instagram and be like, "Oh, like that's dope."
Let me see. Ooh, that's a good question. So this is not that. This is going to be my recent one, but he's not.
Hmm.
There's this guy called Birdie Fitness. I think that's what his podcast is, and he is just like
Bernie Fitness,
Birdie.
Birdie
Birdie Fitness.
Fitness. Okay.
I don't know who this guy is or anything, but I came across his Instagram, and he does all these workouts for the average golfer. Now, I'm trained by a guy named Glenn Fluger in Richmond, RVA athletes. But all the things this guy does is really close to what my guy does. And Glenn is he tries to, he's elite performers, and tries to kind of build a good athlete from since when they're very little. So it's stuff that he's really researching. This Birdie Fitness guy, he's put a lot of good stuff in there, and I really enjoy looking at it. I don't follow too many golfers,
Hmm.
because I like to look at musicians and everything that everybody else is doing, and I'm like, ooh, I like that. I'm going to bring this into the golf world.
Yeah. So Birdie
Yeah.
Fitness.
Birdie Fitness is really good, especially if you're like into workout and stuff. If you want to be, and it's funny. Like,
Yeah.
I think sometimes he'll go out there and say like, "Today we're gonna go play," and he shows a little bit of what he golfs and stuff. So I like it.
Yeah. You reminded me of another question that I wanted to ask you, but I'll let you say where people can follow you first, and then I'll go back to it because it won't take that long. So,
Okay.
where can people follow you, and what are the best platforms, and yeah, what are your tags and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram as Elsa Diaz underscore underscore underscore. The only one I could take.
Oh,
That's where you'll see my most activities. I post there, and I post a lot of Instagram stories about what happens on the road or conversations that I hear on the road. I really like that, like overheard in New York thing.
hmm
Overheard Instagram. What's it called, Instagram, whatever the guy posts, like stories and posts. And so you can't believe the crazy things that I hear on the road. So I try to post as much as I can on my Instagram story. Twitter, I'll get on there once in a while, but I'm not very Twitter savvy. And
hmm
then on Twitter, I'm under Elsa Diaz, two Z's. And then they can also find my page on Facebook. That one is just a little bit more like, just you'll see my post and kind of tell you where I'm at. But
Awesome.
Instagram for sure, you can
And
find you'll see everything on there.
yeah, and I'll link all of those in the podcast description as well, so people can find it easily. Okay, so the last thing that I need to go back and ask you, because I have a lot of friends that listen to the podcast that would kill me if I did not ask you this. For the average golfer that plays, maybe less than 10 rounds a year, like 5 rounds a year, doesn't get out much, but wants to do as well as they can within their average golf game. And by average, I don't mean average pro. I just mean like your Joe Schmo, like accountant that goes golfing like once a month. What would be your number one golf tip or insight that you see a lot of people commit as a mistake, or maybe like an easy, like a simple fix for someone who just wants a low effort thing to improve their game? What's one thing that you would say that would be helpful to someone that fits into that category that would improve their game, a high return for a low effort?
I would say that people need to ditch the, oh, tomorrow I haven't played in 5 months, I'm gonna practice because tomorrow I gotta play. I think that
Yeah.
never works for a game like golf. So if 30 minutes, grab a stick and go hit some golf balls and just get into a groove that kind of works for you. Unless you really want to dedicate a lot of time to your golf swing, I would just say, just find, like I said, do it every day so it can kind of get you in some kind of groove
hmm
that you can somehow rely. Some people have oh, I know the perfect tempo that can kind of help me play well.
Yeah.
You can you can chip at home in just 30 minutes or 1 hour. It doesn't have to be, at least once a week or something. And I think that really helps. If you just
Okay.
kind of try to whip up on your buddies, because everybody thinks you can just pick it up, and it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, for me it's usually one beer a hole, and I usually peak
Oh, there you
around
go.
hole 8 or 9, and then downhill the
There you
last
go. Nice.
the last 9. So it always works out like that. But yeah, I don't practice golf at all, and I always feel like when I take it too seriously right beforehand, where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get my shit together, like I'm gonna go out and go to the driving range 3 times this week, I always do worse. So now I like I embrace the casualness of golf in my life as the average Joe walking up to the range, and I always do better. It's like I'm just like, no pressure, like I suck
Yeah.
anyway. And if I have a drive that goes right down the middle, I let myself be surprised. I don't expect it. I'm just like, oh, that was really nice. Like I enjoyed that.
Yeah. It's kind of
So
crazy how personal people take it, and how you think like everybody's just going to be thinking about all your bad shots. But,
yeah.
like as a golfer who I feel like I've seen it all, I've done it all. I play in pro-ams and I see all kinds of golfers. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm playing my own golf game. Everybody's worried about their own golf game. Like nobody's looking.
hmm
So you might as well just go and have fun. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
such a tough game. You can't put pressure on it. It's just, it is what it is. Especially if you're not going to practice. Just like you said, have a couple beers.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to be one of those guys who goes out and plays a few times a year and they gets super angry when he doesn't do well. And I'm like that because for that situation, golf is like a socializing thing. It's like I'm here to have fun. I'm not getting paid to do this, nor should I get paid to do this. Um, but it's like that element for me remembering that usually ends up with me doing better. So I like that advice. I think the average person should be less angry at their like take themselves less seriously when they're doing things that are they're not getting paid to do. I think that gets you
Yeah.
gets out like the kind of the frustration a little bit.
Yeah, you know what they say, if you want to get to know a person, go golfing with them. So
All right. Well, we'll have
gotta be careful.
yeah. Well, yeah. If we want to get to know each other better, you can watch me fall on my ass on the course next time we're in the same city.
No, no, I don't judge. We're just out there to have a good time.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Elsa, for taking the time to hop on the podcast. I
Thanks for
really
having
do.
me.
I really do appreciate it. And now you have the pro podcast set up.
Yeah.
You can do Joe Rogan. You can do anything now.
I just click the reverb and I start singing. That's what I
Exactly. No transition. As soon as I get off of this, you're gonna start recording music. But yeah, thank you again so much.
Yes, of course. It was very nice talking to you.